This is TWiT.
I want to follow up on our report from 2 weeks ago about the massive and significant AT&T data breach. Reading Bleeding Computers update, I was put in mind of the practice known as rolling disclosure, where the disclosing party successively denies the truth, only admitting to what is already known when evidence of that has been presented. The trouble here, of course, is that AT&T is a massive publicly owned communications carrier that holds deep details about their U.S. consumer users. And as an example of this incident suggests, that they could be acting far more responsibly, and moreover, that by not having done so for the past 5 years, the damage inflicted upon their own customers has likely been far worse than it needed to be. I mean, it's such bad practice. Anyway, so Bleeping Computers reporting was headlined, AT&T now says data breach impacted 51 million customers. And the annoyance in this piece's author is readily apparent. I've edited it just a bit to be more clear for the podcast, but Bleeping Computer posted this. They said, AT&T is notifying 51 million former and current customers, warning them of a data breach that exposed their personal information on a hacking forum. However, the company has still not disclosed how the data was obtained. These notifications are related to the recent leak of a massive amount of AT&T customer data on the breach hacking forums that was first offered for sale for $1 million back in 2021. When threat actor Shiny Hunters first listed the AT&T data for sale in 2021, AT&T told Bleeping Computer that the collection did not belong to them and that their systems had not been breached. Last month, when another threat actor known as Major Nelson, I guess he's an I Dream of Jeannie fan, Major Nelson leaked the entire data set on the hacking forum, AT&T once again told Bleeping Computer that the data did not originate from them and that their systems had not been breached. After Bleeping Computer confirmed that the data did belong to AT&T and DirecTV accounts, and TechCrunch reported, as we reported 2 weeks ago, that AT&T's logon passcodes were part of the data dump. A little hard to deny that one. AT&T finally confirmed that the data did belong to them. It's like, oh, that data. Right. Anyway, while the leak contained information from more than 70 million people, AT&T now says that it impacted a total of 51,226,382 customers. So apparently they've been doing some research into that data. AT&T's most recent notification states, quote, the exposed information varied by individual and account, but may have included full name, email address, mailing address, phone number, social security number, date of birth, AT&T account number, and AT&T passcode. To the best of our knowledge, personal financial information and call history were not included. Oh, goody. So call history not there. Who cares? They said, based on our investigation to date, the data appears to be from June 2019 or earlier. Bleeping Computer contacted AT&T asking why there's such a large difference in impacted customers. They said, we are sending a communication to each person, that is, again, 51,226,382 people. Yeah.
51 million?
206,382.
Wasn't it like 8 or 9 million when this all began?
That's right. They've done a little more research and said, well, it's a little worse than we first told you.
What? 52 million?
Yeah, that's the definition of a rolling disclosure.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, that data.
Oh, yeah. The ones with the pins. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
A little hard to deny that one now.
Well, they think maybe a contractor. That's the thing. They don't know.
But they said, we're sending a communication to each person whose sensitive personal information was included. Some people had more than one account in the data set, and others did not have sensitive personal information. Because Bleeping Computer said, wait a minute, you said more than 70 million, but now you're sending notices to 51,226,382. 0.7. Anyway, the company has still, writes Bleeping Computer, not disclosed how the data was stolen and why it took them almost 5 years to confirm that it belonged to them and to alert their customers. So, okay, I can understand that today, 5 years downstream, they may not know how it was stolen. It's at least believable that if they didn't ever look, then, they would have never found out, right? But the denial of the evidence they were shown many years ago is difficult to excuse. They were first shown this in 2001, and it does appear that it's not going to be excused. Bleeping Computer said, furthermore, the company told, meaning AT&T told, the Maine Attorney General's office that they first learned of the breach on March 26th, 2024, yet Bleeping Computer first contacted AT&T about it on March 17th, and the information was for sale first in 2021. While it is likely too late, as the data has been privately circulating for years, AT&T is offering, this is so big of them, 1 year of identity theft protection, whatever that means, and credit monitoring services through Experian, with instructions enclosed in the notices. The enrollment deadline was set to August 30th of this year, so a few months from now. But exposed people should move faster, all 51 million of you, to protect themselves. Recipients are urged to stay vigilant, monitor their accounts and credit reports for suspicious activity, and treat unsolicited communications with elevated caution. For the admitted security lapse and the massive delay in verifying the data breach claims and informing affected customers accordingly, not surprisingly, AT&T is facing multiple class action lawsuits in the United States. Considering that the data was stolen in 2021, cybercriminals have had ample opportunity to exploit the data set and launch targeted attacks against exposed AT&T customers. However, finishes Bleeping Computer, the data set has now been leaked to the broader cybercrime community. That is no longer privately circulated. Oh, good. Now everybody has it.
The broader cybercrime community.
Right. Exponentially increasing the risk for former and current AT&T customers. Okay, so just so we're clear here, and so that all of our listeners, new and old, understand the nature of the risk this potentially presents to AT&T's customers, armed with the personal data that has been confirmed and admitted to having been disclosed, specifically social security numbers, dates of birth, physical addresses, and of course names. That is all that's needed to empower bad guys to apply for and establish new credit accounts in the names of creditworthy individuals. This is one of the most severe consequences of what is commonly known as identity theft, and it is a true nightmare. The way this is done is that an individual's private information is used to impersonate them when a bad guy applies for credit in their name using what amounts to their identity. That bad guy then drains that freshly established credit account and disappears, leaving the individual on the hook for the debt that has just been incurred. Since anyone might do this themselves, then claim that it really wasn't them and that it must have been identity theft, Your Honor, proving this wasn't really them running like a scam of their own can be nearly impossible. And among other things, it can mess up someone's credit for the rest of their lives. There's only one way to stop this, which is to prevent anyone, including ourselves, from applying for and receiving any new credit by preemptively freezing our credit reports at each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies. I know we've covered this before at the beginning of the year, in fact, but it just bears repeating. And we may have some new listeners who haven't already heard this, or existing listeners who intended to take this action before but never got around to it. So here's my point. In this day and age of repeated, almost constant, inadvertent online information disclosure, it is no longer safe or practical for our personal credit reporting to ever be left unfrozen by default. Rather than freezing our credit if we receive notification of a breach that might affect us, and after all, it could take 5 years, and 51,226,382 of AT&T's current and former customers are now being informed 5 years after the fact. Everyone should have their credit always frozen by default. And in fact, I can see some legislation in the future where somehow this is the policy, because it's still wrong that by default it is open. But of course, all the bureaus want it to be, because that's how they make money, is by selling access to our credit, which we never gave them permission to do. And they just took it. And then, once our credit is frozen by default, only briefly and selectively unfreezing it when a credit report does actually need to be made available for some entity to whom we wish and need to prove our credit worthiness. Anyway, the last time I talked about this, I created a GRC shortcut link for that podcast, which was number 956. But I want to make it even easier to get to this page, so you can get all the details about how to freeze your credit reports by going to grc.sc/credit. So just put into your browser grc.sc as in shortcut, grc.sc/credit. That will bounce your browser over to a terrific article at Investopedia that I verified is still there, still current, and still great information.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from Security Now. If you want the whole show, you can get it at our website, twit.tv/SN. Of course, you can subscribe to Security Now on your favorite podcast, or just click one of the links below.